Hi there, Stampers. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations, and I'm here today with another Facebook Live, and I am so thankful that we've been doing this because even though we're all quarantined into our own little houses, we can still get together and share ideas. And today's ideas are for experienced stampers, but also for brand new stampers. You know, there's quite a few people out there that are just kind of looking for a little something to do or a way to brighten somebody else's day. And today we're going to make some really simple cards and a little gift box that they go into. Now don't get freaked out by the gift box. It is fairly simple and it's all going to be recorded here. So if you wanted to play this back and, you know, hit pause every once in a while, you can definitely follow along and you can make your own. I'm excited that we can all get together and we can stamp because it's one of the things that really de-stresses me, and if we ever needed a time to de-stress, you know, now's the time. And for those of you that might have little kids at home or just, you know, maybe a mother-in-law that needs something to do, I'm also making some kits up. We have some kits that are in the catalog. Let me show you those. Our annual catalog has these all-inclusive kits where you can order them and they would have, you know, the stamp set, the ink, all the papers you need. Everything is all contained in the one little box, and all someone needs to do is add adhesive and, you know, maybe not even that. Some of them have the little glue dots and things, but they're ready to go. And so you can gift something to someone else that brings you joy, that hopefully will bring them joy as well, as we're all kind of trapped inside. Our new January to June catalog has some kits as well. Again, there's the all-inclusive kits, or there's the kits where you just add your stamps and they're ready to go. Now, in addition to this, I'm going to reopen up my old classes. Back in June, I had done a class on several different things. I had done Good Morning Magnolia, I had done Sailing Home. I have opened those back up again because the tutorials are already done. Those are tutorials that are PDF that you can print out. And I have also created little videos that show how each one goes together. And if you wish, you can pay a little bit extra and I'll send you all the parts. So really all you got to do is watch the video and, you know, assemble your own kit, which I think is really going to be helpful during this time of, you know, frustration and being locked inside, all that stuff. But if you have your own supplies at home already, or if you're willing to make a small little purchase and you can get going, I'm going to show you some cards today that are very, very simple. And I would encourage you to pop them into the mail. I mean, we all make cards and some of us, you know, end up with a stack that hasn't gone out in the mail yet. But I really want to encourage you to send them out because it's really important that we share with one another that we're thinking of each other. Even though we can't necessarily get together in person, we can get together on the phone, we can FaceTime with people, we can, you know, send them a card in the mail. Just some sort of touch that knows that they're not, you know, in isolation all by themselves. Yes, we're social distancing, but we don't want to emotional distance, if you know the difference between that. So anyway, off my little soapbox and we'll get to card making. Put you down on my desk. And so this is what we're making. This is the cute little box. And inside I've made a bunch of cards just using a basic card base. Oops. And then adding a layer of designer series paper and then just a strip. And so these are very, very simple cards. And you'll notice there's no sentiment on them yet. And I say yet because the idea is that you never really, I mean, sometimes you know, but you don't always know what you're going to need for what. So I have made up little tags that have the sentiment on them that are all different. So when they're ready to send off a card, they can reach into the box and they can find happy birthday, they can find thinking of you, they can find thank you. And all you have to do is peel off the little dots on the back, pop it on there, and your card is ready to send. And they all fit neatly in this little box. So it might even be something fun that you could do and maybe give to a neighbor and encourage them to maybe pass it on, that they would, you know, take the cards and they would distribute them to people that need a little bit of a smile. So the cards, like I said, they're super simple. Now to make a basic card, now like 90% of you guys know this, but to make a basic card, all you need is a piece of cardstock 8.5 by 11. And then we're going to cut it in half and we're going to score it in half. And so what that means is I'm going to bring in my trimmer Love my new trimmer. Much bigger blade, much easier to use. But I'm going to cut this one at 4 1/4 because 4 1/4 is half of 8 1/2. And so that's going to get me 2 card bases. Now all I need to do is score them in half. So I'm going to pop them into my trimmer and I'm going to line them up at 5 1/2, which on our new trimmer happens to be this long line in the center over here. And so all you do is you line it up on that line and then you score. So the tan blade will score, the dark blade will cut. So now I have 2 card bases. Now you notice the indentation went this way, which is kind of a valley, and what I want to do is I want to turn that into a mountain. So I'm just going to flip it over. Now I'm pushing it up against the lip just to make sure that my ends are even. You know, they should be, but that just guarantees I'm flush. And then I'm going to use my bone folder to flatten the edge. Again, this is all very simple, but I do have a couple people out there that have asked me, they wanted to get started in card making, and this is the basics. I promise we're going to get onto the card. So again, I'm going to turn the valley into a mountain. I'm going to push it up against here, and I'm going to flatten. Now I'm using the bone folder because you can see right now it's not popping back up. If I had not burnished it with the bone folder, it might still pop up. This makes sure it's got a nice solid crease in the card. Now my card can go this way and open on a landscape mode, or it can go this way and open on a portrait mode. We can also cut the other way. So if we were to take the card again and we take our 8 1/2 by 11, this time we're going to cut at 5 1/2, and then we're going to score at 4 1/4. So again, that made the valley. I'm going to turn it into a mountain. Pop that over there. See how it, I don't know if you can see, it kind of pops up. So I'm going to use my bone folder, press on the edge, and now it's flat. So that's why we use our bone folders. It also works well for making sure the adhesive is good and stuck too. So now I've just very quickly made 4 card bases out of 2 sheets of cardstock. So this one, again, the fold is just on a different side, but you can open it on a landscape and open it on a portrait. Now, for the front of the card, I'm going to use our Painted Poppies Designer Series paper, which is this one right here. It's beautiful, bright, cheery colors, which, you know, is something I'm looking for at the moment as everything's kind of gloomy outside because we're getting rain again today. But I'm going to take these papers and then I'm going to make them the next layer of my card. And this one wouldn't even need stamped. It's just like already done. You just cut the Designer Series paper into the sizes that we need. So I want to cut this at 4 inches. Because the card is 4 1/4. So I want it to be a layer, which means it's going to be just a smidge smaller. Our layers come in where there's, you know, the basic card base, a layer, and maybe the DSP, but each time you step down, it's 1/4 of an inch normally. So if you look at this, if I was to cut right at 4 1/4, I would cut off the top of my flowers. And I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm going to look at where I think the top of the flowers should be. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Then I'm going to flip this, and then I'm going to find my 4 1/4. So there's my strip. So this is going to be a landscape card. So, 4. Did I do 4 or 4 1/4? I need to go a little bit more. The card base is 4 1/4, so my layer is going to be 4. And then because the other way is 5 1/2, this is going to be 5 1/4. So this will lay right on top of my card base and give me a perfect edge. Now you'll notice this one's landscaped. We can also take the other half and we can go portrait. And so we know that portrait wise we want to go 5.5, or no, the card is 5.5, so we want to go 5.25. That gets us a little more of our green. And then we're going to go by 4. And you can actually get 3 out of these because it's 12 across. And then I've got some little strips. Now don't think that these are wasted because they're not. What we're going to do is we're going to use these to go across the front of our card because it's got the side we used, and then on the back is a little bit more of a neutral theme. And so what I'm going to do with these is cut these ones to 5.25 or to 4 inches, depending on where I want to use them. And they're going to be the strip across the middle. So there's 2 at 5.25. I think I'm going to narrow this one down. So I can get more use out of it. And so I'm going to cut these ones at 4 inches. So that's all the cutting we needed to do. There was nothing fancy, there was no die cuts, there was no nothing. We just went ahead and we just cut straight lines. And we didn't even do any stamping yet. So we've got 4 cards. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and use our adhesive. Now you can use whatever adhesive you have on hand. I'm using what we call snail because it's really easy. I just run the roller along the edges, and then I can take this and line it up. Now I'm kind of lifting at an edge. I'm only letting those 2 sides kind of touch barely. And once I feel I have that kind of even where the 3 sides are square, then I'm going to let it go, and now it's going to touch. So now I've got my perfect. Okay, so here's our other one. Let's go landscape with this one. We're going to make sure that we keep our crease on the side where we want it. So again, I'm going to just touch the edge. I'm going to gently lay it down, and then it's stuck. Now we've got the 2 we're going to use at portrait. I don't know if you can see, but I'm kind of using my finger to keep it from touching down here until I'm ready to let go. Again, very simple, but I'm trying to get some new people that have not done stamping before, that are maybe now locked in their house wondering what they're going to do with all this time they have on their hands other than clean. So this is a way to de-stress. This is a way to pull out some stamps and have fun. Those of you that are stampers, I mean, don't you agree that pulling out your stamps, ink, and paper just kind of has a magic de-stressor to it? Okay, now these are the little strips I set for the front. And so I'm just going to place that across the bottom here. And this is just the same designer series paper, just the flip side. All of our designer series papers are double-sided. There's something maybe themed on one side and fairly basic on the other side. And so this allowed me to do the really pretty, bright, colorful flowers and then flip it over and have the neutral green to be my accent piece down the middle. Now, even I get tripped up a little sometimes, but the easy way to know how you're using your snail is the little door goes on the bottom. And then sometimes if it's not really running, you know, it's sticking up, you'll find that sometimes excess, like goobers from the glue, get kind of stuck in here. And so if I clean that out, then it works better for me. Also, they are refillable. They come apart, and then you can buy these pieces. So don't throw away this one. This is your base, and then this is going to be your refill. So you just pull out a new one, you pop them together, and you're ready to go. Okay, so there's our 4 cards. I mean, and they're pretty as they are, but obviously we need a sentiment, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out just a basic sentiment set, and you can use any one that you have. I mean, if you need to order one, we can order one, but just pull out a sentiment set. So this says, happy birthday with deepest sympathy. Thank you. Wishing you every happiness. Thinking of you with all my heart. Congratulations. It's got a little bit of everything. This is our peaceful moments. This is in our spring catalog. And it's got great sentiments for the outside, and there's also a couple for the inside. I guess you could use this for the inside too, but it gives you inside and outside sentiments and a little bit of everything, which is super helpful. But we don't know what we're going to use them for yet, right? We've got all these beautiful cards, but we don't know where they're going quite yet, because we just want to have some on hand. I mean, maybe we know we're going to send them off to those people that are quarantined, and we do know, but let's just say we don't. I'm going to come in with our stamp set, and then some Whisper white paper, and we're just going to stamp some sentiments. So let's see, let's pull out some happy birthday. And then if you're wondering about coordination, which is Stampin' Up's specialty, is on the back of our designer series paper. It's going to tell me right here all of the colors that it used inside this pack. And so I can go to my solid color cardstock, my ink pads, my markers, my blends, and pull those same colors, even the ribbons. I mean, everything matches. And so if you find something in a Calypso Coral or a Blackberry Bliss, it's all going to match. It's going to be the same color in the designer series paper. It's going to be the same color in our cardstock, the ink, the refills, the markers, everything. So I'm going to pull a couple of those colors. So here's Blackberry Bliss. There was Old Olive, Pool Party, Poppy Parade. So we're just going to pull some of those out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stamp, and I'm just going to do a couple of them in red. Now I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Scrub. This is our Stampin' Mist. This is a cleaner and conditioner for your stamps. It keeps the rubber really fresh and stops it from cracking. But all we do is we rub it on the wet side, we rub it on the dry side, and we're ready for the next color. Now all of our ink pads are going to open like a compact. So when you go to open it, you just open like a compact, and then you're going to slide it this way. Then when you're ready to close it, you're going to pull from the top and roll it over this way. And the idea is that it makes the stamp pad store upside down. So all of your ink is going to pool on the top of the pad instead of the bottom. So therefore you don't need to re-ink it very often. But when you do, it's easy. Let's see, so you would continue on and you would make whatever sentiments you wanted to make. And then you would either cut them into a strip or you can punch them out. I like to use our punches because it gives it a little bit of a shape, but yet it's very pretty. So let's see if I came in with this one. It's our pretty label punch. And I stamped first and then I'm punching it out, because if you noticed, this one's like not gonna fit centered in there properly like I want it to. So we'll come over to this one. This one definitely will. I have another punch over here. So I'm gonna cut that off square, line it up so we're centered. And there we go. So there's 2 of our sentiments. Now, if you don't have punches, I know where you can get some. Or, like I said, you can take the sentiment, and I think this is fairly centered in the middle here. If I wanted to, I could trim it down. So let's see, I'm going to make this 1 1/4. Then I'm going to find the halfway point. And so you can either do that by measuring and find half of 1 1/4, which would be, you know, something in 3/8. But anyway, we're going to just pinch it a little bit. Now, not very hard, but simple. And then we're going to make a little mark in the center like that. Then take your paper snips, and then you're going to go from the corner to that little dot. Now I'm going to go a little bit below it because I obviously want to cut it off. And there's that one. So now I've just flagged a sentiment. And so this could easily go on the front of a card. Buttered up to the edge. And why do you want to make it a little shorter? I mean, it's up to you what you want to do with it. But if you don't have punches, I mean, don't freak. You can cut it in a regular rectangle. You can cut it with a flag. There's lots of options, but the punches are beautiful. So there's another one. And here's a happy birthday. You know, if you wanted to put it up higher, you could maybe sponge a little color on the edge and it would fit up here. But down here, against that green background, that gives it enough of a pop of color. And then we're going to give it some pop by adding some dimensionals behind it. And so we have these little foam dots, and I'm going to put 2 on the back of each one. I had one more. There it is. And then these are going to go in the top of my box so that when I'm ready to send my card, I can choose if it's going to be a happy birthday, if it's going to be a thank you, if it's going to be a, you know, whatever. I have the sentiments ready to go, but they're not quite attached. This makes a great gift for someone who's maybe not a stamper but wants to give the gift of homemade. So you're getting the idea with our tags. So now we've got the cards made and the tags. Now we need the little box to store them in. So I have my little pieces of paper here. Now let's start with the bottom. The bottom of our box is going to be 6.5 by 9 1/4. And then I scored 1 inch from all the edges. So I just laid it in my trimmer and I scored it 1 inch, scored it 1 inch, scored it 1 inch on all 4 sides. So 6.5 by 9 1/4, less a little bit of a smidgen because you want to give a little bit extra. So when I actually cut my 6.5 and 9 1/4, it was just a titch under because I want it to slip inside the lid nice and smooth. So it was just under, just a titch under 6.5 and 9 1/4, scored at 1 inch on all 4 sides. Our next piece is 5 3/4 by 8.5, scored at 5/8 on each side. Now don't get freaked out by the 8ths. Those are easy to find on our trimmer. If you look, the halfway mark, that's easy to find. The 1/4 inch mark, that's easy to find, right? Well, the 8th is going to be right in between. And so this would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, you know, the idea. But it's just in between. So if I want 5/8, I want it to come over at the half and then 2 little marks over. And so that's going to be my 5/8. Some people that throws them off and they like things in quarters, but the box just goes together better if I can do it with 8ths. Then the insert that's going to go in the box is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4, and then I scored it at 5 3/4, 6 3/8, and 7. And then I folded it into kind of a mountain. I went, you know, so it's going to do this. So my tags will go on top and my cards will go on the bottom. And you'll see that. And then I've got the pieces that go on top. This is the base piece here. This is 6 3/4 by 4. And then I've cut this piece 6 by 3 3/4. And then I'm going to cut it at 4 inches. So I'll have a 2-inch piece and a 4-inch piece. And you'll see how I use that in a minute. But let's start constructing our box. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to just wedge a little corner here. Now I hope you all can see this, but I just took my little score line and I did a little titch to either side. And so it's going to cut out a little tiny V. And that's just, I mean, you can cut it straight if you'd like to. I find it gives me a little more wiggle room if I do the little wedge to make sure that things line up exactly the way I want and they're not just a little bit over or a little bit under. So I want the 2 at the top and the 2 at the bottom. I'm not going to go this way with them, just 2 and 2. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece. And so I'm going to take my little scissors and I'm going to wedge into the corner. And I'm taking out a little triangle. And I'm just starting a little bit over and then ending in the corner where the 2 score lines come together. So now I've got that cut exactly the same way, just the 4 little pieces. Now we're ready to put it together, which is simple. All we're going to do is we're going to fold up on all our little sides, use the bone folder, make sure we're good and scored. Now for the corners, I would suggest liquid glue, only because it gives me my wiggle room. Those that you who watch me know that there's certain times I want my wiggle room. I want time to make sure that I have this lined up the way I want. The snail is great, but once it grabs, that's kind of where it's staying. But I want to be able to move this around and slide until I've got my corners exactly square. I want to line it up so that I'm square on. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And you'll notice that as soon as I let go of that, that one's stuck. I mean, it's not that it's going to be wiggly forever. It just gives you enough time to put it together. The insert, the scoring was done at 5 3/4, 6 3/8, and 7. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of glue in the middle here and pinch this together. So that will be my insert. And of course, if you want to, you can glue it to the inside of the box as well. So now the same thing with the top. I have folded all 4 sides up. I'm going to burnish with a score line at the 5/8. I think we need to go back to sending more snail mail. I'm getting a little bit depressed every time I head to the mailbox if it's all just window envelopes. And sometimes even they don't come nowadays, so it might just be empty because all the bills are online. But I know it does bring a smile to my face, and hopefully to others if they open up their mailbox and there's something pretty that somebody handmade, you know, they thought about you enough that they, you know, made something handmade, addressed it, and sent it out to you just to brighten your day. You know, and now's a time where we all need a little brightening. So if you would like me to send a card to you, make sure that you are signed up on my list with your birthday. On my newsletter list, and I always send out birthday cards. Some of you need to actually go in there and update your mailing address because I got about 4 of them back this week because somebody had moved and I didn't have their updated address. But make sure you give me your birth date and your mailing address. And if you just want a cheer me up card, send me a personal message and just say I'd like a card and I will absolutely send one. I always send thank you notes for every single order, but with what we're going through right now, maybe somebody doesn't have the money to place an order, but they just need a pick-me-up, and I'm absolutely willing to do that. So here's the top of our box and the bottom of our box with the insert, and so those two will just slide together. And then what I'm going to do is take and put this on the front. This is our cardstock. Cut to 6 3/4 by 4. And see, that looks like a lot of glue, but that's a really skinny line. It's not. You do not want to use too much glue because it will tend to warp the paper. And we don't really want it to do that. We just want it to stick. So there's that part. Then I said this piece, remember I said it was 6 by 3 3/4, and we're going to cut it at 4 inches. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a piece to put on the bottom and a piece to put on the top, and it's going to leave a little stripe in the middle. See, that's similar to what we did on the cards in that it's got the little strip of green down the middle, only I created it just a slightly different way by just cutting a wedge out of the middle of the designer series paper. And you could obviously use either side. They're both beautiful. And this can be done with any color cardstock, any designer series paper. I mean, dip into your stash. I mean, this is what we all hoarded it for, right? Those moments where we were going to be stuck inside and wanted to craft. Now's time to pull it all out and start messing with it. Make some gifts and brighten someone's day. If you don't have stuff, like I said, I've got kits galore that you can order through me, either through the Stampin' Up kits or the ones that I pre-cut myself. I'm more than happy to help you, learn how to stamp, because it is so much fun. Very stress-free, and the best part is the excitement of the person on the other end. When they get something in the mail like that, handmade, I mean, you don't see that every day, and so they're just like amazed. Oh my gosh, you made this all by yourself? And, yeah, I did. It was really easy, and I can show you how to. So then I'm going to take my cards, I put them in the box, and then I'm going to take my sentiments that already have their Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to set them up here. They're going to be ready for whenever somebody wants to send a card. All the sentiments will be set up there, and they can just pick which one they want to use, and they can stick it to the front. Let's do one more. And again, I'm just doing a gentle tap, tap, tap. You don't want to press too hard. If you press really, really hard, you're going to get this ink around the outside, which might create a halo when you go to stamp, and you don't want that. If you like printed directions, everybody who orders from me does get a printed PDF with photos of at least 6 different cards that you can recreate as just a thank you for being one of my customers. I absolutely love my job, and I couldn't do that without all of you. So I am very, very thankful. Everybody was all panicked about having to be home and quarantine, and I'm just like, okay, that's what I do every day, and I love it. I get my little moments where I get to FaceTime with you guys and share some videos and some fun stamping, but for the most part, I just play in my craft room. I've got this wonderful studio set up in our basement, and this is where I hang out all day long. I love it. Okay, dimensionals. Here we go. And you can see I saved some of our paper. Even if you've stamped on one side, you just flip it over and stamp on the other. Nice and simple. Nobody will ever know that that little boo-boo's under the bottom. There's the lid to our box, our cards, our little tags, and Stampin' Up also sells envelopes, and you can add the medium envelopes to the bottom of there as well. So they have everything they need. If you have the floral stamps or maybe a little extra strip of the designer series paper, you can even decorate the envelope. You can put a little strip down the side of the envelope, or you can take your envelope, just put some designer series paper on there and glue it down. Just like that. Yeah, big old huge piece. Then take your paper snips and cut along the edge, and you will have a decorated flap. I mean, and that's so easy. Just a little bit of white glue, maybe kind of close to the edges, just because we don't want it to lift as it goes through their little machines. And then I'm gonna line it up with the edge. I can even put it down on my table and make sure that I'm flush to the edge, but not over it. Although even if it is over it, you can trim it off. So now that's glued down. Then I'm going to come in with the paper snips. Oh, and as we're all worried about viruses in your mouth and licking things, whatever, or you just absolutely hate the taste of this stuff, the aqua painters are filled with water. And we use them for watercoloring. You know, they're great. You just pick up your color, you paint with it, then you wipe it on a piece of tissue or paper towel, and then you can move on to the next color. So this allows you to watercolor with multiple colors very easily, but it also gets that wet. How wonderful is that? No more tasting that icky stuff. I love it when we can find extra little uses for stuff that we already have, or maybe want to get, but we want more than one use for it. I mean, when you spend money with me and with Stampin' Up, I want you to use your product. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to share that enjoyment with others. You know, if you get something and you're just a little bit confused and you're thinking, you know, I love this stamp set, but I don't know what to do with it. Obviously, Pinterest is a great time to go look. My blog is a great place to go look. But don't be afraid to just message me and say, you know, look, I'm looking for some ideas. Can you just tell me what you might want to do with that? So I will absolutely help you with that. It's, you know, the reason I'm doing this video today is someone is brand new to card making. They wanted to do something simple. They thought all my cards were kind of complicated, which, you know, sometimes they can be, because I do have some experienced stampers that really want to learn something new. But we also have simple things as well. So don't let card making hold you up. Don't let it intimidate you at all. This is my way of de-stressing, and my job is to help you de-stress as well, to use your Stampin' Up! Supplies multiple ways, to get lots of use out of them and spread lots of joy to others. So again, if you're looking for a kit, I have those. If you just want inspiration, I have that as well. I'm going to be posting on my blog a little more often while we're all locked inside, and you can watch my videos and peruse my blog without spending a dime. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next Monday at 2:30 if I don't pop on before then. So thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you later. Bye.